Walruses are among the most iconic animals of the Arctic. With their whiskered faces, immense size, and of course their long, curved tusks, they capture our imagination instantly. But behind those impressive ivory teeth lies a fascinating story of biology, physics, and behavior. Today we're diving deep into the science of walrus tusks, how they grow, how they function as tools, and what they reveal about the lives of these Arctic giants. First, let's talk about what tusks actually are. Unlike antlers or horns, which are made of bone or keratin, walrus tusks are simply elongated canine teeth. They grow continuously throughout the animal's life, reaching lengths of up to a meter in males and nearly that in females. Instead of being covered in enamel like most mammalian teeth, tusks are made primarily of dentine, the dense material that makes up the core of our own teeth, with a thin outer coating of cementum. Because they never stop growing, tusks form growth layers year after year, much like tree rings. Those layers store a chemical record of the walrus's life. Diet, migration patterns, even physiological stress can be traced through isotopes and hormones preserved in the tusk. In this sense, every tusk is not just a tool, it's also a biological archive. But tusks are tools in a very literal sense. Walruses live in some of the harshest environments on Earth, where sea ice shifts constantly and access to solid ground is never guaranteed. When it's time to haul their massive bodies out of the water, males can weigh more than 3,000 pounds. They face a mechanical challenge. Here, the tusks come into play. By driving their tusks into the edge of sea ice, walruses can anchor themselves and use the power of their neck and chest muscles to lever upward. It's an ingenious adaptation. Instead of relying solely on slippery flippers, they effectively turn their teeth into climbing hooks. Engineers studying the stresses involved have noted that dentine, the tusk's main material, is remarkably resistant to compression and bending forces. This makes tusks not just visually striking, but mechanically well-suited to act as load-bearing pegs that can withstand the repeated strains of hauling out. Tusks are also used as stabilizers. In the water, walruses have been observed pressing their tusks into ice to steady themselves while resting near breathing holes. By doing so, they can poke just their nostrils above the surface without the effort of treading water. This behavior conserves energy in freezing seas, a crucial survival advantage. It also means that tusks aren't limited to dramatic displays of strength. They're part of everyday survival strategies, allowing walruses to interact physically with their icy environment in subtle but essential ways. Yet the tusk's function extends beyond pure mechanics. In walrus society, tusks are also powerful symbols. Both males and females have them, but males tend to grow longer, straighter tusks that play a key role in mating season. During the rut, males display their tusks to rivals and to potential mates, sometimes engaging in sparring matches where the tusks clash but rarely cause lethal damage. These contests are less about killing and more about establishing dominance and social rank. Larger tusks signal age, strength, and genetic fitness, much like the antlers of deer or the manes of lions. Even among females and juveniles, tusks serve as gentle nudging tools, helping to maintain spacing and order in dense haul-outs where thousands of walruses may crowd together. In this way, tusks function as social tools as much as physical ones. One thing tusks do not do, however, is dig for food. A common misconception is that walruses use their tusks like shovels to pry clams from the sea floor. In reality, walrus feeding depends on their vibrissae, their whiskers, which are packed with sensitive nerves that detect buried shellfish in the sediment. Once prey is located, walruses use powerful suction generated in their mouths to pull soft-bodied animals right out of their shells. The tusks play no role in this process. In fact, studies of feeding behavior have shown that walruses can leave telltale pits in the seafloor created by suction, but no signs of tusk digging. So while tusks are versatile, they're not part of the dining toolkit. What makes tusks even more remarkable is that they don't just serve the walrus in life, they also serve science. Because tusks grow continuously, their layers record shifts in diet, habitat use, and even stress hormones across decades. By carefully sampling tusk cross-sections, researchers can reconstruct the history of an individual walrus, tracking when it weaned, when it migrated, and how its environment changed. In an era of rapid climate change, this makes tusks valuable time capsules that help scientists understand how walruses respond to disappearing sea ice and shifting food webs. Of course, tusks also have a cultural and historical dimension. For centuries, they have been used by indigenous Arctic peoples for carving, tools, and trade. At the same time, the demand for ivory has driven overharvesting in the past and raised conservation concerns. Today, regulations govern walrus ivory use, balancing respect for traditional practices with the need to protect wild populations. Climate change adds another layer of complexity. As sea ice diminishes, walruses increasingly haul out on land in massive groups, where the risks of stampedes and juvenile deaths increase. This new reality may change the way tusks are used in daily life and social interactions, potentially altering the evolutionary pressures that shaped them in the first place. So, when we look at a walrus, those gleaming ivory tusks are far more than decorative. They are anatomical marvels made of dentine, continuously growing and recording a life story within. They are mechanical tools for hauling out, anchoring, and stabilizing in a shifting landscape of ice and sea. They are social instruments that signal power, resolve disputes, and maintain order in herds. They are not feeding shovels, despite the myths, and they are scientific archives, helping us decode how these animals survive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. In short, the tusks of a walrus are nature's multi-tools, weapons, tools, symbols, and records all at once. They remind us that in the Arctic, survival depends on versatility, and that even the simplest-looking adaptation can have layers of complexity hidden beneath the surface.